Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I know you guys are all excited for our 11:30 talk this morning. I know we're becoming pretty good friends on Facebook Live. We get our regular followers coming through, joining up with us. Today, Nelly was going to be doing a talk on bats, but we had a donation come in early this morning when we first came into the zoo, and we get quite a lot of support from our local farmers. We have a scavenger license that allows us to pick up dead stock. And we get chickens donated to us regularly from our chicken farms. And this morning, one of our friends came in and donated us a young goat that had died on the farm. And they got out early this morning. It was a young goat that passed away. And we're going to be feeding the goat to our reticulated python over here. Some of you may have met her before at Bank Street. Her name is Boots. She is a reticulated python. And she's about 19 and a half feet long, weighs about 145 pounds, and she is one of our, or the biggest rescue on snakeside that we have right now. And we're going to be feeding her this young goat. So as I say, this goat was donated to us where they died on the farm, and they normally just either incinerate them or they bury them. But we're able to use them because they don't go to waste. The snakes can still eat them, our crocodilians can still eat them. So great support from them. We also picked up 4 bags of chickens this morning. So those we can use for all our crocodilians and our snakes as well. So we're going to be giving the goat to the snake. But now, although the goat's already dead, what we do is I have the goat under a heat lamp right now, giving it a bit of body temperature, because these snakes do work on body temperature. They have heat receptive pits around the upper lip. You'll see them a little bit later on when we go in and do the feeding, because we're going to get you up nice and close in there. Right now she's kind of hiding her head along the side of the wall. But so we warm the goat up to give the snake something to aim at. So she'll pick up the smell of food with that nice forked tongue of hers. And then as we go inside, she's going to return around, and then she's going to pick up the smell and the body temperature where we've warmed that goat up. She's going to lunge out, she's going to grab the goat, she's going to wrap around it as if she's going through the full constriction process as she would do in the wild, or naturally do to kill or immobilize the prey for herself, and then she's going to start to swallow it. So I know this can take a little bit long because of the size of the meal, but we're going to see Boots is a big snake. She's a machine. The goat is only around about 8 to 10 pounds in weight right now, so it's a fairly small goat, but nevertheless it's a fresh one, and we're going to go in and offer it to her right now. So if you are a little bit squeamish, don't want to watch that initially, please, just as I say, it is a goat coming up now, and it's got its head, her hooves, her fur and everything on it. It hasn't been skinned or degutted or anything. It is as it would be, because those snakes need all that they're going to swallow. They need the fur, they need the organ meat, they need the bones, they need all that, because it's a fully nutritious meal for them. So I'm going to go inside, and Natalie's going to film and maybe give you a little bit of commentary once I go inside, just to let the snake grab. And once she's grabbed it, we'll get you right inside there, and we can talk about, maybe we can see the extension of the trachea where she would be breathing through while she's swallowing, because these are common questions we get, and we'll explain all of that stuff once we get inside. So for now, just enjoy the strike, watch how quick they grab and coil, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, for safety reasons, we're just going to stay out here, because she does pick up body heat, as Lee mentioned, so we don't want her to accidentally go for us instead, because she would smell the food, she would sense our heat, and mistakes can happen, so we always take safety precautions when initially feeding them. Once she grabs it, we can go inside. Her head was kind of coiled inside her body just before Lee started talking, so she's definitely interested. She can probably smell it as well. There she goes. Doesn't take her long. So you can see she coils it right away, so we can actually come around now. 1 second. Just get a shot of that. There you go. Now we're going to head on inside. There she is.
So that was a pretty good grab. She actually on the head, which is normally what snakes do. Are ambush predators, so they normally wait for the prey to come within a strike range of them, and as the prey gets in there, they either lunge out and grab the animal directly on the head, the neck, or the shoulder, which is a safe place for the snake to latch onto the prey, so that it's harder for the prey to turn around and start trying to bite or dig the horns into them. And as they grab them, they'll very quickly pull in and they wrap around them. Now, when they bite onto their prey, they've got 4 rows of teeth on their upper...
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of a glitch in the system there, but we're back online. So these guys have got rows of teeth. They've got 4 rows of teeth on the upper jaw, 2 rows of teeth on the lower jaw. That's what they use to anchor themselves to the prey with. Once they grab that animal, they'll then very quickly wrap around the largest part being the rib cage, where they start to asphyxiate the prey. And it's a very, very quick, sufficient way of killing their prey. It works very, very quickly. It's efficient. And you can see she's kind of holding on to it, coiled around right now. And this is normally what they do. And there's no time limit on this because snakes kind of have all the time in the world. Because out in the wild, they can be, they're solitary. They live alone. They've got no competition where somebody else is going to come up and steal their food. And so what we do is they sit there and they wait for that prey to be dead and that they know that they're not going to let go too soon. And as soon as they feel there's no further pulse, there's no struggle, that's when she'll start to kind of ease her coils off. She has got it in a nice spot on the head there. And what she'll do is she'll start to swallow that goat from the nose first. And as she starts to swallow, she'll pull the prey through her coils. And by doing that, it helps elongate the prey. It folds the arms down, folds the legs back, the fur lays one way. If the animal had horns and the horns were sticking up, if they pulled that head out, the nose was laying forward, the horns would sort of start to lay down towards the neck. And there have been cases where I've seen and heard of African rock pythons that have actually grabbed things like impala, and the young spike rams where the horns are still really short but they're straight up, have actually pierced through the snake's body. And what's actually happened is digestion's taken place, those horns have just fallen off, and those wounds, as long as they don't get an infection set in there, can heal back over again, as long as that doesn't do any damage to vital organs. So Boots is a captive animal, or she's been in human care for a long time. She was a rescue before, and so she's completely used to having us moving around her while she's eating. In the wild, if this was a big snake that had grabbed a large prey item and got interrupted by a human or a predator, they would very quickly release the prey and either once again try to defend themselves or slither away, so that they are vulnerable when they are swallowing prey like this. So even if they have swallowed it and they've got the food partially in their mouth or maybe halfway down, if you approach them, they can very quickly regurgitate that prey. And I've seen this happen even from fully swallowed. We had a python that had eaten a goose on a farm the one time we got called out for, swallowed those goose whole. The farmer phoned us in the morning. We went out to get it. And even just moving that snake from the goose enclosure into a holding container was enough to get that snake to regurgitate its meal. And that snake regurgitated the meal and was once again ready to either defend itself or to slither off back into the bush. So they can let the food go if they have. Do you have any questions there, Natalie?
We have one, but she's just still typing it up. She's eating a baby goat. So maybe if you want to just, for newcomers,
so anybody
that
just joined us, this is Boots, our reticulated python. She's about 19.5 feet long, weighs about 145 pounds. This morning when we got to work, one of our local farmers in the area who does donate food to us, she donated this goat to us. It was a young goat that they found dead this morning, didn't make it through the night. And we have a scavenger license. The goat died of natural cause. They weren't sure what it was. Normally they would just bury them to get rid of them. But we're able to use them for food sources for our snakes or for the crocodilians. So this was a young goat. She's about 8 to 10 pounds. It's a newborn one, and was freshly donated to us this morning. So we took this opportunity to be able to give it to the snake while it's still fresh without being frozen or anything like that. And so it does have everything that it would normally have. It's got its head, its horns, the hooves, the fur, everything's there because the snakes need that as a complete meal. Now we do have a dead stock license that allows us to pick up dead stock, and we do this regularly. Whether it be from a chicken farm, we got 4 big bags of chickens this morning that we can use for our animals. We got the goat when we got to work, and we even have sometimes gone out and picked up deer that have been hit by cars. Instead of them going to waste, we're still able to use that food for the animals. And that's definitely a great time during this time of the year where we're all battling with COVID-19, and this all supports our animals and helps feed them. So it's a great help for us, and the animal's not going to waste. It's becoming a good source of food.
So question from Lisa. Hi Lisa,
Hey,
welcome
Lisa.
back. As a solitary animal, what cues do they... question disappeared. Do they use to signal when they're ready to come together for mating?
Oh, that's a good one. So for copulation time, what will happen is normally triggered off by seasonal, whether it's coming from a cooler time into a warmer time, females will release pheromones. And those pheromones will be spread around as she's moving around. And males will pick up these smells, come across the scent. Multiple males could come across the same scent, and they'll come across to that female, and the males will go through a combat. Normally, they use kind of like arm wrestling. It's the strength. They don't often bite each other. They'll normally just wrap around bodies and force each other down to the ground like arm wrestling. And the weaker one subdues and goes away, and the dominant male will get to go and copulate with the female. And this was actually interesting because I did a lot of work when I was in Africa, and we used to have a saying there that people believed that if you kill a snake, its mate will come and find you. And this came about because what was happening is people would kill the female snake where she's released those pheromones. And the males would still pick up that scent trail, come along, trying to find the female and get to that spot where she's dead, and get there. And then the person would see that second snake and go, this must be the mate coming to hunt me down because I killed its partner. But that's how things and different beliefs started occurring. And it was often that type of thing because snakes are solitary. They don't have that competition. But that's a great question, Lisa. So it's definitely a release of pheromones.
We have a question from Stephanie, not really related to boots, but she's got a baby red-eared slider that keeps sleeping in weird positions. Today she was laying in the water on her carapace and holding on her rock. Sometimes she lays on the side and has her arm in the air and one on the rock, or she holds on to the filter or heater. Is this normal? Yeah,
I mean, they're going to find spots that they're comfortable with holding on to. You just got to make sure that the water that they're able to breathe, that they haven't flipped over, there's nothing wrong with them. Turtles can sometimes get issues if you put from warm water to super cold water. You can have a little bit of a gas exchange problem that happens with them where they kind of can't keep their balance. That doesn't sound like what it is. Just sounds like the turtle's finding a spot that they're kind of comfortable as a young one and hanging on to it. Just keep an eye on and make sure that they are able to still move around, swim around, and that the water's not too deep, that if they are clean, that they can still kind of keep their head above water. Giving them a nice flat surface area with a nice basking light is always a good thing, especially with your UVA, UVB rays, especially as a young turtle, and giving them the calcium with their D3 for the absorption of that calcium. That helps benefit the shell. But our guys will do it too. We find them in sometimes funny positions, hanging on the rock sideways or laying on rocks or sitting on top of each other. We've got two map turtles here that love to sit kind of clinging to each other under the basking light. So it is kind of natural. So don't worry about it. As long as the turtle's still active and doing well, you shouldn't have a problem with it.
We had quite a few extra people join not too long ago, so maybe if you could just kind of tell us where we got the goat again.
Sounds good. So just going over this again, guys. So those of you that have just recently joined us, this is Boots. She is a reticulated python. This isn't the normal color variety of the reticulated python. She's one called a tiger reticulated python. It's a genetic mutation of the original colors that you'd find. But she's eating a 8 to 10 pound baby goat. And this goat was donated to us freshly this morning from a farm where the goat died overnight. And they woke up in the morning and they found the baby that had passed away. And normally they would bury them or put them on their compost pile. But they've heard that we do take animals in like this because we have a dead stock license that allows us to pick up these food items, whether it be dead chickens from a chicken farm or the goats get dropped off here. We've also even picked up deer from that have been killed on the side of the road that we can use for food, for whether it be our snakes or our crocodilians. So it all goes to good use, and that's what's happening here. So Bootsy actually starting to get through the swallowing process. I saw her moving a short while ago. What will happen if this does take a long time? We might end the call and then go back on, but she is kind of going.
She is actually swallowing, and we can see her face a little bit, so you can see the bottom part of the jaw is stretching. So she is starting to actually swallow.
Awesome. So she's starting the process. So what happens when these guys swallow their prey? What they'll do is their lower jaw. A lot of people ask us, do they dislocate their jaws? They don't actually dislocate them. Their jaws are separated, the upper and lower jaw. What will happen is when they open their mouth, their lower jaw separates from the upper jaw. So the mouth will open kind of like this, and then it opens that way, and it stretches apart. The lower jaw is not a solid bone like ours. It's made up of 4 bones. And what will happen is when the mouth opens, it drops down, it straightens up, and it opens out this way. So it's not fused in the middle. And then that allows them to use those jaws independently to help walk that prey down their throat. So what they'll do is, as they are ready to pull the food in, they'll unhook the right side, they move those teeth forward, they hook them in again, and they pull the prey down. And then the left side goes. So independently, they walk the prey in. Now what will happen is, as soon as she gets over the head of the goat, she's going to get to the shoulders. It looks like she's almost got the whole head in right now. We're going to get Nelly to come around from the other side there. And get you nice and close to the action. We can see the front foot over here, but this is the neck in this section over here, and she's already got the whole head of the goat inside. The next battling part for her will be the shoulders. So once she gets to those shoulders, as I say, this can be, I mean, she could swallow something as big as a 75-pound goat. So this one is pretty small for her, and she should cope with it pretty easily. But normally the shoulders are the next big headache that they get. They kind of get there and they take a bit of time to stretch the mouth open and over it. But once they get over those shoulders again, then the rest of it goes in pretty easily. So let's have a look and see how she's going to cope with this. You'll see how elasticated that skin is around there. You'll see the scales start to separate with the layers of interstitial skin between there. That'll open up enough to get that prey down. The ribs on the snake aren't connected in the belly either. They lay open so that when they swallow large prey, the ribs will just spread apart like that, and it'll allow the prey to be pushed down to the stomach. Now digestion takes place inside the snake's stomach area. It'll get pushed down about 2/3 of the way, and then depending on temperature will determine how long it takes for that prey to actually digest. So it's nice warm temperatures right now, and a goat like this would last her about 10 days, 10, 12 days, and then once she's active again, she'd go to the washroom, and everything gets broken down except for anything made of keratin or enamel. So the hair, the hooves, or the nails or a beak would get passed through, feathers would get passed through if it had feathers, and the teeth would come out. So when we were in Africa, we used to do a lot of snake removals as well, as I was saying before, and we would often keep the snake in captivity for a couple days, just for them to defecate, to see what they were eating in and around the area. And you can actually identify their prey just by going through the fecal matter and breaking it up and trying to find the teeth. In some of them, we even found some small little horns from a impala once, or a daker, that one of the African rock pythons had swallowed. So they definitely eat large prey in the wild. Now, reticulated pythons can get up to about 27 feet long as a recorded length that has been documented. But on average, around 20 feet is a big female. Females are larger than your males because they do retain and carry the eggs. And Boots actually not long ago, actually what was about maybe 6 months ago, did lay about 40 eggs with us. So, and she hasn't been with a male for a while, so that actually would have been a sperm retention that she had, and she had copulated a couple of years ago. And some snakes can retain the sperm and use it at ideal times. And she did drop a clutch of 40 eggs. Now, we don't incubate the eggs because, unfortunately, we don't want to flood a market or have too many babies that we can't get rid of. So we didn't actually incubate those eggs itself. But it's not a bad thing for her to go through that process because it is good for the females to go through the actual breeding cycles. All right, I'm going to grab the other laptop just quickly here while I'm looking, see if I can see anything.
I think the last two may be new.
Lisa, that's a good one. So hopefully I did answer that one. How long would the meal take to digest? As I said, it does depend on temperature. She would eat this today, and in a week's time she could eat another meal. It all depends on the availability of food for her. But a meal this size would sustain her for easily a month. She's a very healthy snake. She's in good condition, and she has good body weight. And they could easily, a snake like this could easily go for 12 months to 18 months without food. So they don't have to eat all that much. But digestion process on this size meal, temperature, you're probably looking at maybe 7 to 10 days.
You can
We've
see
got one here. Thanks for sharing this. Nature's fascinating. It definitely is. Natalie's up there nice and close. You got a good coverage of the video footage there. Yeah. If you look at the bottom there, on the bottom jaw, you'll see the rows of teeth covered in the gum there. So what will actually happen is the gum is covering the teeth, and as she bites down, then the teeth would be exposed. So you'll see the little lines in the gum there. Those are actually rows of teeth. and she's busy swallowing, and we do see some people there are posting unhappy faces or sad faces. Just so you guys are aware that the goat wasn't killed for us. We didn't kill the goat. She didn't kill the goat. The goat actually died of natural causes on a farm, and it was brought to us early this morning from one of our farmers, and they asked us if we could use it, and I said definitely, and it died overnight. They weren't sure what actually, it's just a young goat that didn't make it through. And this is actually the second goat they brought us. About a week or so ago, they brought us a goat that was premature born and didn't survive. So we do get them, but it's not something we go out and buy, or we have them killed for us. It was something that died naturally, and normally they would just turn it into compost. But we were able to use it to help educate and show people the size meals that a snake can swallow, teach you about the fascinating side of a job that we get to do on a regular basis. But not everybody gets to see this and experience it. So everything we do is for an education purpose and for the goodness of the animals. And would we want to see the goat die? No, definitely not. Natalie, my wife over here, she loves goats, and she's always wanted a baby goat to look after. So we're not supporting on that side. It's just one that happened to pass away, and they brought it to us here this morning. So we do have those concerns, and we know that people do get upset with things like this, but just see the value of what we're doing it for and where the goat came from. It's definitely an amazing thing to be able to experience and show, and knowing that the animal didn't get killed by us or wasn't killed by the snake. We don't do anything like that for human entertainment. It's all done for as most humane way as possible for the animals and for everybody watching.
Yeah, so you can see sometimes because of the way they're coiled, they kind of grab their own body. They do release right away and they readjust, so they can definitely feel it. See, she's kind of moving her own body away so that she can swallow easier. And Lee also mentioned earlier about the heat pits, and we can kind of see them there.
Yeah, you can see them on the upper lip there. That's quite a good shot there. You can see
there we go.
The little pits right along the side over here, which would be where they're located. That will tell her the size of the prey, how far he's away from her. So even if this enclosure, the habitat that she's living in, was completely dark, that you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face, she would still be able to see that prey, strike accurately at it, grab it, and go through the full killing process without even having to see it. Now look at the amazing colors that you're getting in the camera there.
Well.
Look at the iridescence that you see. A lot of people see those rainbow colors, and that's the white light that's shining into the enclosure here, that's breaking up into the color spectrum, giving it that like almost oil on water
everywhere,
effect.
yeah. You can kind of see. I was
So
literally
we have Lisa here asking how far do we go to pick up animals that are used for food from farms? Can people contact you to drop them off? Definitely, Lisa. That's what happened with our goat farmer. She's local. She's about 10 minutes from us. She's not too far away. But she got in contact with us through one of our other volunteers that has a dairy farm, and they said if there was anything that they could help us with, and that's how they kind of reached out to us. We have traveled. We don't go too far depending on what it is. We also don't have a ton of freezer space, so we try to use what we have. So it's always fresh and good quality for the animals, so that we're not having anything that's sitting in the freezer for too long. But we have traveled around a bit. We do have two locations. We have our Ottawa location. We also have our Hamilton location, which would also benefit from it. So we can cover a bit of ground for that. The goat was dropped off. The chickens this morning that we picked up, they were about 45 minutes away from here, if that even. But they were also pretty much within a drive range. We do cover some distance, but we don't go hours away to pick them up. That's what's local for the best of us, and to help the local farmers.
So this might take a while. We may kind of cut off here and maybe return either with a picture once it's done, or maybe we will do another little live snippet in a little bit. But yeah.
Once she gets over those front shoulders, maybe we can come back in, because that's when it'll start to move a little bit faster.
I mean, she's kind of getting there.
We've got a question here, Sherry. How long will it take for her to eat this? It depends on the size of the meal, Sherry. Sometimes, and if they've ever eaten them before. So what happens is, often in a human care, a lot of people tend to feed snakes a similar type of prey item. So if you're feeding your snake rats all the time, or you're feeding it something like a rabbit, and then you try to give it a different meal, sometimes they don't always take it because they're not really sure of the smell because they've always been fed a similar type of prey item. And Boots over here has eaten goats before. We don't get a ton of them, but it happens on an occasion that we do get them. But on a meal this size, I mean, it's going in pretty quickly. And I mean, she's already at the front shoulders right now. The front leg's going to be folded down and pushed into position that will allow her. So she'll kind of pull it back through her coils, and that will help her kind of elongate and stretch it out a bit. But for something this size, will probably be about half an hour, 40 minutes. We had another snake that I worked with quite a few years ago that would eat about a 75-pound goat, and she could do it in about 4 hours. And that's normal. That's what would happen in the wild. And normally these things are done at night when there's fewer predators or a little bit more difficult for them to be seen, and the snake would then carry on swallowing their prey.
And you can see it's actually all the way down to here now. So the head
so
starts right about here.
Just tuning in from Stacy there, what type of kind of snake is this? Is Boots. She's a reticulated python from Southeast Asia. She is a tiger phase, so it's not a natural color variety of it. It is a man kind of created color variety. You wouldn't see them in the wild like this, but they call it a super tiger reticulated python, and she's about 19 and a half feet, weighs about 145 pounds. Then we have Daniel Anderson, who asked the question, how do they go to the washroom? So at the base of the tail you have an opening called a cloaca or a vent, and that's what they would call a sewer hole. That's Latin for it. And so everything will go down into the stomach area where digestion takes place. They will digest their prey, and then it will get passed through within about 2 weeks after the prey's been digested, or about a two-week process once it's been swallowed to the time that it comes out. And it'll come out in one elongated package. It'll be brown. It'll be the matted fur, the teeth, the hooves will come out when they go to the washroom. And you'll often find whiteness in there as well. That's the urine. They opening. They also copulate and give birth through that same opening. So that's what puts reptiles into a similar family of birds. Because of that reason, you can have a look now. You can see how those jaws are stretching, the elasticity. You've got the necks, the scales that Natalie just showed you there stretching apart on the neck. Yeah. We have a bit of an interruption on our live video there.
Oh. Is it stopped?
Yeah.
Oh. It's showing I'm still live here.
So, no, okay, there we go. Maybe it's just between the two that we have going here. Yeah, it's definitely an amazing opportunity to be able to share something like this with people. And as I say, just to always clarify that this goat was not killed by us. It was one that died on a farm. One of our local farmers came around today and asked us if we were able to use the baby goat because they normally just throw them on the compost pile. But we are able to use something like this. It's interesting, and being able to teach and show people this on how it actually swallows their prey. And look at the amazing elasticity in that snake's jaw right now. If Nelly comes around from this side, you can kind of see the muscles in the top angle of the jaw at the back here. You can see how that mouth's having to stretch apart to get over that goat's front shoulders. But it's definitely, I mean, and this isn't anything even, probably, it's not, maybe it's 1.5 times the size of her head. But they could swallow something as big as up to 10 times bigger than their own head. So they can take in fairly large prey. And I think right now, Nelly, it's probably worth just staying online and filming through it. We're right there. She's got over the shoulders by the looks of it, and she's now working her way down to the back end of the goat. So we'll see how far we can go with her. And you can see she's definitely content with us being in the enclosure and in her habitat. She has a nice big pool over here, and that's normally what will actually happen. Is she's in a massive habitat here. She's got nice branches climb around on. She's got nice basking mice that she can lay under. She has a massive pool over here, and that's probably where she's going to go once she's done this, because snakes often look for a nice place to digest a meal like this. They often go into water where they feel kind of comfortable. They may go under some bushes and hide under the bushes or leaves, and obviously here in human care she doesn't have any predators, but she would feel pretty comfortable. So there we go. I think we answered that one. Sherry, does she mind us being here? She definitely doesn't. She's been in human care her entire life, and she's fully used to us. Often you find if a snake was under a lot of stress, or wasn't comfortable with people being around them, they normally wouldn't even grab the food. They would be very reluctant to grab food because that's putting themselves in a vulnerable position. So you'll find a snake that if it was ever taken from the wild or was in the wild and you walked up to offer a snake in the wild food, they would not easily take it from you just because of that stress that they would go through and the risk that they would get eaten.
Yeah, so she's kind of stuck on that one leg. So you could see she was kind of moving back. They will readjust. She may need to kind of stretch it out better. So hopefully
Someone
she'll get past this quick.
I think we just got Facebook blocked.
What?
Are we still live then?
Yeah, we're good. Not sure.
Hopefully we're still live there and everyone can you guys all see us still and hear us?
It's still showing. I think we're good. There we go. She's almost got it.
Just as we go through, we still here. You guys can hear us, or did we get blocked?
I don't.
Oh, so we're still live. There we go. People can still hear us. That's awesome. Okay, so that's good news. We did put up a warning about it. We did say that we did a whole introduction about this before we started the feeding, of what it was about, and what was going to be seen and how we received the goat. So just for anyone joining us, the goat was a dead animal that was brought to us, died on a farm overnight. It was one of a baby goats from a local farmer here, and they brought the goat to us and they asked us if we could use it, just to always what do we say?
What's that?
Always to make sure that everyone's aware that this wasn't something that was taken or killed by us or by the farmer for us. It was an animal that died naturally, and they asked us, as I said, normally they would incinerate them or they would put them on their compost pile. But as a zoo that we are, we do use animals for people to, or for the snakes to eat. It doesn't go for human consumption at all, but we do, and we are monitored. We are allowed to pick up dead stock like this goat that we got, and allowed to show a feeding like this. Now normally people would be able to come into the zoo and watch a feeding like this and see it, and we would always continuously, as we're trying to do now, repeat and confirm that this goat wasn't killed by us. It was something that was brought to us dead already, and we did feed it to the snake. It's not a gory feeding. They swallow their prey whole. It is sometimes for some people a little bit off-putting because of they're amazed, and I've seen a lot of it. I mean, I've been in the reptile field in zoos for the last 23 years, and we've had people come up, and some people say, "Oh, that's terrible. We couldn't watch that." And then 5 minutes in, they watch it because they're going, "Oh, it's not gory. It's not gross. It's not like we thought it was going to be." And they kind of swallow it whole in one big meal, and they definitely do so. So we often find that kids often like watching these. It's normally adults we find that sometimes I'll get turned off by. A lot of people go, "I don't know, my kid's got to kind of react to this." But all the times that I've ever done these feedings with, whether it be in the zoo or now live on Facebook Live like this, we've had people always say, like, the kid's not sure, and the kids are plastered up against the window. They love to watch, because as I say, it's not a gory thing. They don't rip any chunks off their food. There's nothing that's going to be exposed. They swallow one complete package, goes all the way down, and we can see that she's doing really well right now. She's got her way right the way down to almost the back legs, and she'll be done really, really soon. After this meal, when will the next meal be? That's from Katya. The next meal depends. We normally feed them about once every 3 weeks, depending on the size of the meal and through temperatures. So if it's through the summer, we can do them that often. During the winter, we do slow them down a little bit. We also give them smaller meals so that they're not putting a strain on them through cooler times. Even though the habitats are warmed up and kept nice and warm for the animals, we do still have temperature fluctuations, and we have to always be cognizant of that to make sure that they're always going to be safe and healthy through those times. So you can see how far down the goat is already. She's moved it all the way down her neck, down into the body. She's got up to the back legs.
can see how far it is down. So there's her head there. Oh, can you see my finger? There we go. So the goat's all the way down to here already. There we go.
And again, just for anyone joining on, this is a python eating a goat. It's a reticulated python here at Little Ray's Nature Center in Ottawa. The goat was a dead meal that came into us this morning. It was dropped off on our doorstep by a local farmer that had one of their young goats pass away overnight, was brought in and asked if we could use it. And we definitely can, and we used it and we gave it to the snake while it's still fresh. And as I say, we had a bat talk Natalie was going to be doing for you guys today, all about our straw-colored fruit bats. So you can definitely join up with us tomorrow and see Natalie doing a talk on those. But because this opportunity came up, we thought it would be a great opportunity. And especially these days, I mean, we're looking for things to do, and what can we teach our kids, and how can we show them, especially with homeschooling. And this is definitely something that you don't get to see every day. It's a good learning opportunity, and for people to be able to see this. I mean, to see a snake eat something this big is definitely fascinating. We're getting a lot of good positive feedback on it here, how they swallow their meal and stuff. And as I say, it's not a gory meal. They swallow it all in one big piece, and the kids are enjoying it. And we've got a lot of feedback here with kids saying they love it. Some of the kids want to be veterinarians out there, and that's amazing. I mean, I've always had a passion for reptiles from a young age, and my parents always helped me through it, and I was allowed to keep animals as pets at home, and as long as I looked after them, fed them and cleaned them, and they were my chores to do and my animals to look after, I did that. And I've been in the game for 23 years now in zoos, and I was in South Africa, and I came to Canada from it. I've been to Costa Rica, and it's just been an amazing adventure for me to be able to go through and get an opportunity to do this. And you can see why kids would want to do something like this.
So you could see now that all the big parts are done, she just got the legs, and it's pretty easy from here on in.
So we have a question: what is the biggest animal this python has eaten? All that I've noticed, this is the biggest one that we've actually fed her, but I mean, she's probably had up to about a 35-pound goat, because I know she has had goats before. That was prior to us working with Little Ray's. But she would take something as big as about a 75-pound goat. We had one at another zoo that I worked at that ate a 75-pound goat. So they can take in fairly large meals.
Just in case anyone's wondering, sometimes they do chip teeth while they're eating as well.
Yeah, they will see a bit of blood in the mouth from time to time, and that's often their teeth actually push through their own gums. That's all normal. That's not her injuring herself or doing it. I mean, this is a pretty small meal. If you have a look inside the mouth, if Natalie can get it, she might open her trachea. You might see that extension of the lower jaw there. She'll open and close it when she breathes.
30
that's
seconds
one of the there comes out the bottom there. You can see it kind of just in the white fur there.
Yeah.
She'll push this extension of her trachea, she'll open it, and she'll take a breath that allow her to breathe like a snorkel when she's swallowing large meals. And they have a straight down pipe, goes all the way down to their stomach area. It's about 2/3 of the way down.
She's hiding.
And we're right at the end. She's actually, we're going to get Nellie to come on this side over here, closer to me. And what's going to happen is she's going to eventually pull her head out of that coil that she has it in, and she's going to lift her head up, and then she's going to kind of swallow the last little bit, and you'll see it kind of coming down. So let's have a look and see. Even though she's eating this meal right now, if we had another meal in here, whether it be another goat or a rabbit of a similar size, she would definitely take that meal, because snakes are opportunistic predators. They will take that time, and they will eat whatever's in that area all at one time, because they don't know when they're getting their next meal. So there was just Natalie adjusting there, and now she's in place, and you'll see Boots is busy pushing the goat down to the stomach area, and I think the back legs are already in. She's got a few kinks in the body there that will help push the prey down. You can see the shape in it. And now the digestion process starts. So she's going to push that goat all the way down, about 2/3 of the way to the stomach area, and that's where it will then lie in digestion. They have digestive enzymes just like we have that help break the prey down. And everything gets digested except for anything made of keratin or enamel, so the hair, the nails, or the hooves, and the teeth will come out when they go to the washroom. So that's our feeding of Boots there right now. We hope that everyone has kind of seen it, enjoyed it, and we have explained that, and I will go over it one more time just to make sure that everyone that is online has seen it and is aware of it, that the goat that we just fed was a dead goat that was dropped off on our doorstep this morning by a local farmer. It was a young goat that passed away late last night or early hours of the morning, and they normally throw them on the compost heap. We are able to use them. We do have a dead stock license that allows us to pick them up. We also picked up 4 bags of chickens this morning that come from a chicken farm that allows us to feed the snakes through these hard times, and none of the food going to waste because they can use it. So we'll use those chickens for our snakes, our crocodiles, our alligators, and anything that we have here. And now she'll start to kind of rub her face around a little bit. Normally at the end of it, you'll often see her yawn. She kind of opens the mouth and stretches it, and that's just kind of putting the bones back in place and repositioning them again to make herself comfortable. But have a look at that. She's pushed it in, and now that she's pushed that goat in, it's almost even hard to see the goat inside her body because that goat's about the same thickness as her. So you can imagine if she swallowed something the size of a 70-pound goat, how much bigger that body would have to stretch during that meal digestion process. And normally when they digest their prey, what will actually happen is it will sit in the stomach, and today it would be a regular size as it went in, but by tomorrow the goat would have bloated, and the prey gets even bigger, and they stretch open, and then the digestive acids break its way through, the gases get released, and then the prey gets kind of pushed back down to a smaller prey, to a smaller size in that stomach area. And then it will sit in that stomach area for the next 7 to 10 days depending on temperature, and then she'll then go to the washroom from there. But that's our feeding of Boots. As I say, we hope you guys have enjoyed it. I have a couple of questions here. What a cute face. Lisa loves her. Lisa, it's good to have you on board. It's always, you become part of our family here right now. As long as everybody else, everyone's out there. We have everyone coming through. We have Lindsay saying, how long is she? Lindsay, she's about 19 and a half feet long, and she weighs about 145 pounds. She is the biggest and the longest reticulated python that we have at the zoo. Alright guys, so that does bring us to the end of that. I know it was a little bit longer than what we normally do, as they are around normally 10-15 minutes. But you can see Nellie's just come around to the outside of the enclosure just to show you what she would look like. And we will be ending off there. So from me, I'd like to thank you all for your time. I hope you've all enjoyed it and learned something. If you listen quietly or carefully, Lady, our American alligator, is calling right now.
And she's just saying goodbye.
That's Lady calling for you. That's her breeding call and dominance call we have, and now she's done it. A lot of the other alligators are going to do it, and that's her goodbye to all of you joined us today. But thanks everybody. We appreciate all the support we've been getting through these tough times, and it's just amazing to have you guys join up with us every single day and get to know us, and eventually like to meet all of you in person. So come and join us as soon as we can. Be open to everybody. We'll be announcing that. But thanks for all the support. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you tomorrow at 11:30.